Hey, everybody. Welcome to our next virtual guest speaker series for MKT355. This is Sports Selling and Sales. I'm excited to have our next guest, a sports industry veteran, to say the least. Jason Gonella is currently the Senior Vice President of Ticket Sales at the XFL. But Jason, as I explained to you, and I told the class earlier this week, Jason's probably worked in every sport, every league, almost every situation you can in sports. And so I'm really excited to have him join us today. So welcome, Jason.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Great to be here with you guys.
Yeah. So Jason, I guess, why don't you just start off, just tell us a little about what you're doing and what you're currently doing with your current project, and then maybe give us a little bit of your background.
Yeah. So I basically took a role with the XFL. It all came together really quickly at the end of the summer, this past summer, and ended up having which normally is how these things come together. I had a friend of mine get in touch with the person I'm now working for, and things came together in like 2 weeks. They really needed somebody to run their ticketing. I really wanted to get out of what I was doing and get into something a little bit more full time. So took on this opportunity. It reminded me a lot of new stadium projects that I've done in the past, and realized when I was getting into it, it was going to be quite a bit different, because we were doing it across 8 different cities with 8 different unique markets and situations. So it's a pretty big job in terms of the breadth of it. I've got more people reporting to me than I probably had definitely at any one time in my career, but you could combine some of my jobs outside of maybe 1 or 2. It's more people than I've had working for me, 2/3 of my career combined. So I've got 8 directors in each of the individual markets, who each have about 7 people reporting to them selling tickets, and then I've got an operations staff and some folks at the league that sort of oversee the entirety of the ticket operations for the entire league. So all in, it's about 70 people that work for me, and we run basically a $30 million business, of which we're responsible for about 15 of it. That's what we call rep controlled business, which consists of your season tickets, your group tickets, and your premium, which we just call suites, because that's really all of our premium. We do club seats in a couple of markets, just because we can't, like inclusive club seats, just because we can't service them a la carte. But so I've been doing this now for about 5.5 months, I guess. And we're going to kick off here on Saturday. We've got 4 games this weekend. It's a 10-week season. There's 8 teams in the league. We play a playoff game at the higher seed or the better team, 2 of those, and then a championship game is going to be hosted in San Antonio after a week off. So the season will run from this weekend till May 13th, with a week off there, the weekend of the 6th and 7th of May. But it's a lot of fun. It's run by or owned and operated by a woman named Danny Garcia, who's the chairwoman. Her claim to fame is she's been by Dwayne Johnson, one of the other owners, side his entire career, developed that brand and all the different sort of entities and tentacles that come off of that now. Looking at a couple of Kansas-Oa, that's one of his big brands. Terramana Tequila, obviously he's a huge movie star and celebrity. And then we're also owned and operated pretty much by a company called Redbird Capital. That's one of the big venture capitals in the sports venture capital or private equity firms in the sports entertainment space. So exciting opportunity, really, happy to be here, and, very excited for what's ahead of us. We've done a really good job hiring in a very tight window of time. We just cracked $9 million in season ticket sales across the league. Our goal for the league for the year is 9.5. So we'll definitely exceed that. We're flying in suites. Groups have just gotten started. We had a little bit of an issue in Vegas finding a stadium. We didn't really get on sale with our tickets from a single game perspective until the beginning of January, which is a pretty tight window. We went on sale with season tickets in November. Did a little premium starting in December, and then went on sale with singles and groups basically at the same time. So it's a very tight window of time, but very proud of the work that we've done so far, and excited to get things rolling.
Great. So Jason, I was telling them, I know you're located in
New Jersey.
You're on the East Coast, right? So
yep.
And the corporate headquarters is in Las Vegas?
Connecticut is where we operate out of. We did the draft in Vegas.
Okay.
DJ Dwayne Johnson has a good relationship, as does Danny, with the UFC guys. So we did the draft at the UFC, smaller octagon that they were doing the made for TV stuff during COVID. And then we have a hub in Arlington where all the players are. Like I said, I'm sitting in Arlington right now, the old Rangers baseball stadium, now called Choctaw Stadium, where we're going to play our game tomorrow. But all of our players train here. They've been here since training camp started and will be here through the end of the season. And then they travel to their individual markets for the games.
Okay. So you oversee the entire sales operation, and then you said you have a small staff in each market that then is trying to draw up business.
Yes. So basically, I have I would say a small outside sales staff, JP. It's like, 7 people and a director. 6 people and a director, right? Yeah. And then and then it's tiny. We're it's very grassroots. A lot of digital marketing, driving campaigns, that sort of thing. And it's been quick, so we've converted quite a bit of our season ticket base, or season ticket sales over the internet, using a thing called virtual venue that Ticketmaster's bought a company. And people are able to go in and actually see what their seats are going to look like and actually buy them online, which is pretty innovative. It's probably one of the highest percentages of anywhere in sports, in terms of season ticket conversion. So we got pretty lucky there. And we sold in one market alone, we sold 20,000 tickets almost, and almost all of those were sold. I shouldn't say almost all of those, but the better part of 9,000 of them were sold online when we had no one in the market.
Little different than when we were opening up the link.
Yeah. No more surprise. Here's where your seats are.
Right.
That was not fun.
I was telling the class. I was telling the class last week, we were going over sort of priority systems, and we were going over, kind of how you deal with, everything from like seat relocations to new stadium, new stadiums. And I was telling them that it was really challenging because you guys, when you sold the new stadium, you leveraged first come, first serve. The quicker you get in, the better your seat is. But that idea of what a better seat is really subjective, right? So it became really difficult to sort of say, all right, you might be first in line, but where do you really want to sit? And we had to have that whole, I remember we had to set up a survey just to get them to rank their preferences, just to be able to kind of satisfy where they were sitting.
Yeah. No, and it's funny. I sit near guys that, tell me stories about what their PSL process was like. And we sold 30,000 PSLs through the mail. Basically, and just seated them where they wanted to be. And then the club seat process was just crazy because we, sold people on the idea that they were going to be in a zone, and you had salespeople saying, "Oh, you're going to be on the 50-yard line in this row and an aisle," and we would have had to build like an edifice on the 50-yard line to put everybody on the aisle. But
Right.
Yeah, it was wild, but definitely different now.
Right. All right. Well, this sounds great. So I'm excited for the XFL season. I think this sounds like a great opportunity, and hopefully the league is, I know this is sort of the second or, 2.5, version. But I'm hoping this round will be successful. So with it, why don't you give the class a little bit about your background? Cause I know it, but I'm sure they don't even know kind of where you came from and sort of all the different entities you've been involved with.
Sure. Look, I've been doing this a really long time, probably before most of you guys were born. So I started my career back in, I graduated college in 1994, that is. And I started working in Major League Baseball, thought I wanted to be in public relations. Major League Baseball went on strike in 1994, canceled the World Series. And then I got involved in golf and tennis and tournament management. Did mostly operations at a tennis tournament, and then went on to Vermont, and that was in South Carolina, on to Vermont, and started getting into selling sponsorships and really enjoyed that. Was one of the top revenue producers on that tournament. There weren't so many people, but and then parlayed that into a career with the New Jersey Nets, where I got into sales and became known as someone that could, go outside and develop revenue, and convince larger companies that they weren't able to do business with before I got there, to jump on board and do something with us that was sort of creative and different. Did that for a couple of years, and then from there parlayed that into an opportunity at the Philadelphia Eagles to be their director of sales. Got elevated to be the VP and basically ran the entire Lincoln Financial Field sales process. And when I got there, the Eagles were not very good. We brought in for the first time like outside sellers to actually sell season tickets and really kind of revolutionize their business. We set all sorts of NFL standards on our cost per seat basis, which means we were selling our real estate for the highest prices in the NFL when the stadium opened. Did a great job with the club seats, the PSLs, the whole thing, basically set the business up. And Jeffrey Lurie would still say this today, in perpetuity, which is what we promised them. And it's just a cash machine. They just keep renewing and, keep raising their prices and all that fun stuff. So really proud of that opportunity and did a good job there. I got recruited from the Eagles to go work at the New York Jets. The New York Jets were going to build a stadium on the west side of Manhattan that was going to be the center point piece of an Olympic bid in New York. The stadium never got built. I spent a year after that with the Jets working on what ended up becoming MetLife Stadium, realized how much of a cluster that was going to be, representing the Jets, and left to go sell hockey in Newark, New Jersey for the Devils at what became Prudential Center. Did that for about a year and a half. And then from there, got recruited to go run Staples Center for AEG and all their premium business in their global portfolio. Did that for about 3 years and then moved on to a company called Legends to run the Rose Bowl project for them, their second project after the 49ers. So this is now 2010, 11. I think, yeah. And then, and then I got into my own business for a little while. The Legends thing ended somewhat abruptly and surprisingly. Did my own business for a little bit. My last client was a company called Van Wagner. And because I was angry with Legends, I wanted to do everything I could to get the Minnesota Vikings project out of their hands, and was successful with Van Wagner and literally stole the project as they were about to sign a contract with the Vikings, and did that for about 2 years in Minnesota. And then was recruited back to LA by Tim Leiweke, who used to run AEG, to start a company called Oakview Group. Did that for about 2 years and then went back to the Prudential Center to get back to the East Coast. Did that for about 3 years, did my own company for a couple of years, and then now at the XFL. So I spent most of my time in my career either selling premium seating or driving ticket sales revenue or sponsorship revenue for most of the time new buildings or buildings that were being what quote unquote reimagined or resold after they'd been on sale for a little while, with the Staples Center and the Rose Bowl and Prudential Center the second time around.
Everybody got that, right? You're going to be quizzed on that.
Yeah, I mean, I can send you a resume if you want to share it with everybody.
Look, I just think I think you tell a great story, because I think, we've talked about it in terms of, the opportunity to work in sports oftentimes comes through sales. Yep. And also, the idea that you can control your own destiny, and the idea that you really can advance quickly in sales if you're able to produce. And so that's kind of where I wanted them to hear from you, especially because you're somebody that just has been able to really leverage and use experiences to get the next experience. Yeah, no,
I've been pretty fortunate. I mean, I think I would always tell people, especially younger folks looking to get into the industry, if you can get into a situation where you can be involved with revenue generation and establish yourself as someone that's, nimble, quick thinking, and able to, take something from start to finish with a client. And most of the stuff you're selling in sales isn't, I mean, maybe advertising a little bit, there's some need for it, but for the most part, most of these entry-level opportunities are in the ticket sales space. And we say this to the folks that are coming to work for us here at the XFL, that you're going to learn how to develop your own personal brand, as well as be able to, take something from nothing and show people that you know how to generate revenue. And if you can do that, you can do stuff in sports, you can do stuff in any walk of life from an industry perspective, if you can drive revenue. And that's where the rubber meets the road in every business. I mean, if you can't make money, you're not going to be in business very long.
So, give the students a little bit of an idea of how, we know that technologies have been driving and change the way that we sell tickets and the way we prospect. What's the biggest differences now in ticket sales, and maybe what's the biggest sort of benefit now of the way that things are?
Well, again, I think the biggest difference that I've seen in this situation that I'm in now is really around the digital component of it, that people are actually buying season tickets online. I mean, I think, like in most walks of life, you can, buy a car online, they deliver it to your house. You can do all your travel online. Like the reliance on, human to human contact to get the things you need to do in your life done is really, um, it's just different, right? And then I think also, obviously the demographics changed a little bit. I think you've got younger folks that are involved in the experiential piece of this, where I think, when we're doing stuff back in, the late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, you were just calling on big companies. And those big companies were trying to entertain their customers and their clients. And now it's really more about their human capital and trying to take care of the people that work for them. So it's a much different sales process in that regard from a B2B perspective. And then also you're getting folks that understand the secondary market game a little bit, and folks speculate a little bit more on their tickets than they did maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And then I think also too, that vertical in and of itself is such that you have to work more hand in hand with the secondary market. When, I was doing this 15, 20 years ago, you talked about doing a broker deal. Like, it was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Why would I do that? You're doing something irreputable or, shady or whatever. Now it's way up front, and, it's just part of your process. I mean, you almost have to do a distribution deal with a secondary partner to help you, seed things through the secondary market, because that's a huge revenue stream. And we're not doing that right now. And it's a little interesting for our business, not having that place, because you don't really have a conduit to sell incremental tickets, so, like in our situation this week, we, wanted to fill the house and make things look good and all that stuff. And, it's a delicate balance, you give away some stuff, and then, once it's given away, you can't really take it back. And, but if you did a deal with the secondary market, it's a little bit of a different process in that regard. So, yeah, I think those are probably the biggest changes. And also, I think the buyer is just way, way more sophisticated now. You're not sneaking up on anybody with any kind of ticket. Everybody knows what they're doing. Tickets are just a thing now. So you're, in the past, you could walk into a company, oh, we've never done this before. Like, they're not having conversations like that anymore. People know what they want. They know how they want to buy it. They can give you advice on how they want to do things, and they have their own way of how they want to do stuff. Where in the past, the salesperson had, or the team, the entity had way more control over that process.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So what questions do you have? I want to hear from some of you guys here in the class. Connor, yeah, let's go with Connor and then Mario.
So obviously, I mean, you've had a lot of job experiences. What's been a challenge that you faced, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, challenge, like every day is a challenge. I mean, there's different things and challenges, like even what we're going to deal with these next 4 days or next 4 games. For my people, I was sending them notes today, just, being, kind of just smile and wave. Like, there's going to be stuff that happens. I mean, I think the biggest challenges I probably ever faced have been around things like a lack of understanding or a lack of communication around goals and objectives. And, it's hard to, I think Yogi Berra says this, like, it's hard to get lost when you don't know where you're going. So if you're in a situation where, there's a lack of direction and you're just kind of catch as catch can, that's always a challenge, I think, from my perspective. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I haven't had any. I've certainly had a few, but I would say those are probably the biggest, where you're, not exactly sure what you're doing or how you're doing it, where there's not a lot of communication around things like goals and objectives. That gets really challenging.
All right, thanks, Connor. Mario, what was the question you have?
I was just wondering, for someone who's like looking for at least some point in their timeline to kind of get into the sports world, what would you give like as a word of advice for someone trying to initiate the move into your type of business?
I mean, I think it's never too early to start the whole networking process. I've got a couple of girls that are your guys' age now, that one of them wants to get into like an analytics field, and I'm pushing her to get out and just get in front of people, and that's not an area where I have tremendous amount of experience or depth of network. But, through my network, I can get her in touch with people that can get her in touch with people that, work at places that she may want to work. She wants to get into like, game-based analytics, results-based, sports analytics type thing. I'm trying to tell her to get into sports gaming because I think that's a more profitable space. But anyway, long story short, I think that's key. I mean, and then I think getting work experience is also key. Just get out there. There's not a lot of places anymore that let you work for free as experience, but if you can volunteer, even if it's on campus, just getting some work experience that you can actually say is, look, I've tangibly done this, as opposed to, I did some stuff in retail. I worked as a lifeguard. I worked in a bar or like whatever. Like the more you can say, look, I know I want to do this, and the reason I know I want to do this is because I did this, and this, and I've got people that can speak to what I did at those places. I think that's the most critical. I mean, I started doing internships my freshman year in college, and it was invaluable.
Okay, Chris.
How you doing? My question would just be like, what are some of the most effective strategies that you found in selling XFL tickets to like fans who maybe aren't familiar with the league or like some of the players?
Well, I don't think there's a lot of people that are familiar with our players. I'm not very familiar with them. I have to ask my son, have you ever heard of this guy type of thing? And that's really, not the crux of the league. It's the game quality. But I think a lot of it's just driven by the fact that it's going to be affordable. It's going to be fun. It's football. People generally enjoy that. It's going to be quality football. There's good coaches. It's, folks that are aspiring to get into the NFL that have played in college at a fairly high level. And again, it's good, cheap fun. Like that's kind of how we do it, on our side. And I think that moves the needle typically.
Jason, one of the topics we talked last week about, we were actually looking at all of the football leagues that are starting to like pop back up again.
Yep.
So the USFL, very much just a television product, right? Where it was a hub in Birmingham and now going 4 locations. I thought it was interesting that you said that, the XFL, the majority of the revenue from this year is going to come out of ticket sales. And so that's going to come through attendance. And so do you think that that's a more stable approach for long-term growth, or do you think the television, like the USFL, is a better sort of initial model when releasing a new league?
I mean, not just because it's our model, but I like our model better. I think that's more of a standard approach to I mean, that's how you do it, right? Like, I mean, this idea of like, oh, you can play in empty stadiums and just put stuff on TV and people are going to watch. I mean, that's been tried before and it doesn't work. If there's nobody in the stands when you're watching a game on TV, it's not compelling. It's not must see TV. So I'm old school in that regard. And I think I'm not privy to, and I'm not sure there is a like fully baked strategy on what the strategy is here to monetize this long term. I don't know if it's breaking it up into franchises or, continuing to bundle it as a single entity and sell it. But I'll tell you this for sure. When the ticket sales numbers started to come in 2 weeks, there was a lot of reporting done and it was all for investors. So if you can move tickets, that's what people want to know about, right? Because tickets lead to eyeballs lead to ratings lead to dollars. So you're growing organically and holistically if you're starting with the ticket product. And, the best leagues in the world are sold out. Whether it's, UEFA, whether it's the Premier League, whether it's the NFL, whether it's baseball, like if you're good, it's all evaluated on tickets, maybe a little bit on eyeballs, but at the end of the day, if you're not moving tickets, it's the main indicator for what's going on in the league. I mean, baseball's tried to pivot a little bit, and I think they should, because their product's just so, it's just so large, and there's other metrics that drive their traffic, online viewing and, just all the different intersections with baseball. It's just such a big, broad thing. But, at the end of the day, if all of a sudden it's hard to fill football stadiums because the tickets have gotten too expensive for the NFL's got a real problem. And then it sort of trickles down from there. So I think, it's tried and true that this is the right way to do it. And I think also you'll find it, not because I'm super close to it, but just because I know the players involved. Legends is consulting now for the USFL to sell their tickets. So they're trying to sell tickets. when you can't sell $10 tickets in a hub, that's a problem. So they brought in some experts to try to move greater amount of tickets. And you look at a league like the PLL with lacrosse, decent TV product, but they struggle because endemically they're basically giving tickets away to all these different lacrosse entities. And like, if you're giving tickets away to the lacrosse players, who's buying the tickets? So, I went to a lacrosse tournament in Long Island, and 90% of the people there were going to the game for free. I felt like a jackass trying to buy tickets. Like, why don't I have free tickets? So like, why, who's going to buy? Like, there's a 5,000 player tournament next door, and those people aren't buying tickets. Like, what are you doing? So, and that's a big thing with me with, how we comp and stuff. Like, we're going to comp youth football. Like, you're taking away a whole revenue stream for the league from a group sales perspective. Like, youth football should be buying tickets. Like, this is the perfect product for youth football.
So what's the perceived value that you can offer in the XFL that maybe these other leagues can't? What are you going to market as in terms of your value proposition?
I think, again, it's good, affordable football. We've backed away from family football because we're not family in a lot of cases. If you like the closest market to us, and if you guys want to come down to DC sometime, let me know. I'm happy to host you. Whoever wants to come down, just work through JP, we'll figure all that out. But or Dr. Lutz, whatever the hell he's called these days. But he'll always be JP to me. But when you go down there, it's the big sort of organic attraction is a beer snake. So it's hard to sell, family fun to, a 3-section long beer snake that, is basically people drinking 3 and 4 beers and stacking the cups and just making the thing go. So we've kind of, it's a delicate balance in that regard. And I think also it's not gimmicky, it's quality, right? So we took a huge step away from when the WWE owned the league, and that was more, I would call, gimmicky football, right? They were trying not to be your dad's NFL. They were trying to like kind of be the anti-NFL. We're embracing all that. Like, we've got former NFL people. I don't know if you've done the research, but Mark Ross, who we used to work with at the Eagles, runs all the football operations here. So Russ Brandon's an old NFL guy. He's the president. We've got NFL guys up and down, the rosters. And it's a true stepping stone. We have a partnership with the NFL alumni where we're sort of guiding people through apprentice programs to get them back into the league, or at least be ready to play when it's time to go through the league. So, I think that's really it. And I think, the proof of concept is how legitimate is it, right? Like, if we put on a product, and it's a delicate balance. Like, we're kind of grassroots on the ticket side, but then we're very, highbrow on the football side. It's where does that meet? So you're, nimble enough to do what you need to get people in the building, which I would say is a little bit more like a minor league effort. But then you want to look major league on the field. So it's a delicate balance in that regard.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? We've got a few more minutes with Jason. And again, I appreciate your time here.
No problem.
Yeah. Ryan, what you got?
Yeah, so I know you just mentioned, at least from the brand side of it and the marketing side of it, that this is a different approach than the WWE owned XFL. But in terms of ticketing strategies and all of that, are you guys maintaining a lot of the same strategy and assets, or is it a completely different approach that you guys are taking from, I guess, the pre-COVID, not 2001, but like the pre-COVID XFL?
I don't know much about the 01 product outside of watching it casually when I was working in the NFL. Maybe watch 5 minutes of it. I bet you I only watched 5 minutes of the 2020 version 2 on TV. It's just not I'm a very traditional sports fan. Like, this is college basketball time, whatever, like, and then I'll get into baseball. Spring training, I think, starts this week or whatever. But so that said, the strategies are somewhat similar. I mean, I think the biggest difference for us is just everything was so compact from a timing perspective, where the folks that did this back in 2019, 2020 started in September, had a schedule, and then, went out in sort of a staggered approach with all the different products. But basically, we're on sale with single games pretty much from October on. We didn't start selling singles until January. So just a different model in that regard. Same general principles. Only went up a little bit in price in certain markets. I mean, the tickets are priced to move. I'm not going to brag with anybody about how much revenue we're driving and all that stuff. It's just more about units, how many people we hired, how quickly, the quality of the staff, and then just the overall revenue push. But It's yeah, I wouldn't say it's terribly different from what we were doing before, and that wasn't really where the diametric difference or the big differences were. I guess I don't know if diametrical is the right word, but the differences were more in like the branding and the positioning of the league. That's really where the differences are. And I think our model again is a better model just because, you know, I mean, I don't know, this whole anti-NFL thing's been tried so many times, it just doesn't work.
Gotcha,
Jason,
thanks.
Jason, what do you look for in a candidate? So when you hired someone to work in the XFL, what was something that you looked for specifically in terms of characteristics, experience?
So on the director level, I looked for people I knew or I could get to in 1 or 2 calls to people I knew really well, right? So I hired people that are super experienced and over indexed for the roles in certain markets. So what I would call like an older crew. And then I've got younger folks that are going to be stars in our business that are just, you know, just going gangbusters. And most of those guys are guys that were here in 2020 as part of the program. But, you know, just, I mean, similar, I mean, I'm saying this to you, but to the group, I mean, similar stuff to what I've always, you know, it's just folks that are, you know, committed to what they want to do, true to their word, are going to come in and work hard and have a good attitude about it, you know, can laugh at themselves a little bit because this isn't easy work. And we talk about it all the time here. It's very messy what we do because it's just a messy process. You know, we're trying to do about 18 months worth of work in about a 6-month bag. And that's hard. So, you know, it makes, again, doing the new stadium thing in one market, you know, with a 2-year runway look easy comparatively to what we're trying to do in 8 markets all at the same time. So just good quality people that are slightly competitive, you know, with each other, but really more than anything, team players and are bought into what we're trying to do from a mission and a process and are going to do everything they can to get that done every day.
Well, again, we're kind of butted up against it here. So I appreciate your time, Jason. It was good catching up with you. And I certainly, I hope you're open to the idea that if anybody wants to get in touch with you, I could share your information or have them connect with you on LinkedIn if that's appropriate.
Yeah, anytime. And like I said, I'd love to, I mean, just generally, I've toyed with the idea and I don't know how we'd pull it off, but and it would be kind of weird. I don't know if we want to upset the Commanders, but doing like a Philly day down in DC, I've seen pictures from 2020 and there were quite a few Ravens and Philadelphia fans down there. And I mean, there's, you know, football and beer, you know, it doesn't take much to get people to go from Philly to DC. So, you know, we'll maybe try that. But I mean, again, if anybody wants to come down and, you know, again, get a feel for how we do things or shadow people or whatever from that perspective, or just come down and watch a game, I'm happy to host anybody.
Yeah, that might be something we can look at. I mean, as we get sort of, you know, we get back from spring break, it kind of gets a little bit touchy with finals, but certainly after the semester, you're kind of still in season there. That might be something we could look at. That'd be great.
Yeah. I think I don't know the schedule. I don't know the schedule in any market by heart, but yeah, I think our last DC game is April 16th, which actually might be Easter. But yeah, so again, that's a Sunday. But we have a Monday night game actually too on March 27th. If you wanted to shoot down on the train or whatever, but again, no pressure there. Just
No, that's great. All right. Well, thanks again, Jason. Good catching up with you, and we'll hopefully talk soon. Okay.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, JP. Nice meeting everybody.
Thank
See you
you.
later.
Thank you.